So welcome everyone. Welcome everybody. Welcome to my first time homebuyer webinar. I'm glad that everyone is able to attend today. I hope that all the information that we provide to you guys will be very useful when you are ready to purchase your home. So pretty much let's see. So pretty much we're going to go ahead and explain the whole process to you guys. We'll have multiple Q&As throughout the whole session and also Q&A at the end. We have a lot to cover, so please, if you have a pen and paper handy, that will definitely be useful. I will be going back and forth from the slides to, our faces visually. So anyway, let's go ahead and start, all right? I created this webinar to cover the whole home buying process so that you would be more educated on what to expect when you are ready to buy. Also wanted to clarify some questions regarding the types of mortgages and how to qualify for them, and let you know types of grants and programs that are available for first-time home buyers. And we'll cover some legal concerns that you might have or legal issues that you would want to pretty much keep in mind of. And I'm also going to explain the differences between condos and co-ops, because some people don't know the differences, and it's something that you should definitely keep in mind when you are ready to purchase your home, okay? I hope that I'll be able to answer all your questions. If I don't cover something that in the webinar and you do have a question, you just feel free to put it in the chat. I'm monitoring it, and we'll help you out with that, okay? All right, so first up, we're gonna do introductions. I'm gonna introduce myself. My name is Alicia Anglin Pagan. I'm a mother to a wonderful and highly energetic 5-year-old boy, wife to a supportive, compassionate, and loving husband, a pet mom to a faithful and aging Labrador Retriever, a major foodie, and I am a licensed real estate salesperson. I'm associated with RES, which is a boutique real estate agency nestled in the heart of Park Slope, and a part of a wonderful team, Karan Diaz team. With my team's combined experiences, expertise, innovation, determination, passion, and we give all of our clients a major edge in the real estate game. If you are in need of assistance or just want real estate advice, my team and I are always here. Feel free to contact me at any time. If I'm unable to assist you personally, one of my awesome team members will. Okay, so that's my contact information. I respond to text, emails, and on social media. So just feel free to reach out to me, okay? All right, so I'm gonna introduce my guests. I have two guests with me. Stephen Smith, who's an attorney. I've actually been working with him for a while. We've done a couple of deals together. He's worked as a seller's attorney as well as a buyer's attorney. And I've actually done deals on both sides with him. He will be assisting me with any legal concerns today, and will be explaining what you should be mindful of during the process of obtaining your home. Okay, he attended John Jay College and obtained his BA in Government Studies. He's attended Brooklyn Law School and obtained his Juris Doctor. He's a member of the New York Bar Association, Association of Trial Lawyers of America, and the Brooklyn Bar Association. His practice areas include personal injury, real estate, wills, and estates. So this is his contact information. please feel free to contact him regarding any legal concerns. He will help you out with your issues and your concerns. He won't hesitate, okay? And my other guest, my other co-host, name is Rebecca Tardeo. She's an experienced mortgage professional with a diverse mortgage background. She will be assisting me today with the mortgage aspect of the webinar, okay? She will explain the process of the pre-approval as well as the process of obtaining the actual loan. She assists those who would need mortgage refinancing, first-time buyer loans, as well as other financing solutions. All right, so she's licensed in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Florida, and Connecticut, and can assist home buyers and homeowners in those states. This is her contact information. So if you do need assistance with finding a mortgage or refinancing or anything like that, you can give her a ring and she'll help you out with no issues, okay? All right, so now let's start. Let's start with this whole buying and selling thing, all right? So first of all, you have to figure out if it's better to buy or if it's better to continue renting. Is it better to buy or rent? It depends. Okay, you have to think about what the costs and benefits regarding renting and owning, which one outpaces the other. That's what you have to think about when you want to consider buying or continuing to rent. So I made this little table here, which breaks down the elements of renting and buying. All right. A major benefit to home ownership is home value appreciation. And that means that your home is likely to be worth more in the future than it is today. For instance, StreetEasy. I don't know if any of you have heard of StreetEasy, but it is a real estate marketing website. And it has stated in their blog that in Manhattan, the median real sales price of a home rose 31% between 2005 and 2015. So that's, a good increase, increase in investment. A major benefit for renting, though, is a potential for higher yields. That pretty much means that you can invest your extra money elsewhere, like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, retirement funds. You could make more with that than with the local market. The only problem with that is that rent inflation. And we all have seen how rent increases dramatically. I mean, it's gotten to a point that a lot of people are actually trying to leave the city because of the cost of renting in New York. Another thing you have to think about is, hold on, let me escape from this real quick. Another thing you have to consider, I'm going to switch to so it's not only the increases, or let me make this major. It's not only the increases or the inflation that you have to think about, but you also have to think about, are you planning on staying in New York? If you're going to live here for over 5 years, you're not planning on going anywhere, it's better idea, a better choice to buy something. All right, so the longer you stay, the longer you stay, the more benefit is going to be. You're going to approach the break-even horizon. So the break-even horizon in real estate, and let me share this again. Pretty much shows that it's at a point when the cost of renting is equal to the cost of owning a property. Okay, so if you live in a place where it's past the break-even horizon, you would begin to have more money and assets than if you're owning the home than if you're renting the home. So here is pretty much like how Street Easy states that the break-even horizon in the whole of New York City is around 4.9 years. And in each borough, the break-even horizon is a little bit different. In Manhattan is 7.4 years. So in 7.4 years, if you're owning a home, it's going to be the same cost benefits as renting. In Brooklyn, it's going to be 4.4 years. Oh, I made a typo. I did it twice. It's actually Bronx, 4.6 years, Queens, 3.0 years, and Staten Island will be 4.1 years. After that point, rents will increase and your mortgage stays the same. So if you're going to stay in New York City, it doesn't make sense to rent after that point. Okay. Let me switch back here. Financial situation. So how's your credit? How much debt you have, how much money you have saved. You also have to think about long-term, if you are able to maintain the property, if there's any repairs that needs to be made. So you need to also think about that, emergency situations, or if you decide to go with a co-op or condo, do you have the money to pay regularly for maintenance fees? Lastly, are you mentally prepared? Owning a home can be stressful. There's a lot of things that don't go your way, things that break. Are you really mentally prepared to own a home? So let's start with the buying process. Now, the first thing I would suggest everyone to do is get a pre-approval. Get a pre-approval. It's very, very important to do that. And pretty much the reason why is that you'll be able to know what you can afford, what type of property, what neighborhood that you would move to or be able to move to. You won't waste time, because if you go out without a pre-approval, you see a property that you go through trying to do an offer, that's time wasted if you can't afford it. Also having pre-approval in hand pretty much makes the agents as well as the sellers know that you're serious and that your deal is less likely to fall through. Some agents don't even want to show you if you don't have a pre-approval on hand, because they're not sure if you're really ready. But what does a pre-approval consist of? I am going to let Rebecca explain that portion of it. Okay, let me switch to
Wonderful, thank you. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
This whole process, especially beginning, you want to make sure that your agent and your seller can take you serious. So the first stop and the first thing you should do is stop and connect with a mortgage professional who will be working with you to complete a pre-approval and also work with you throughout the mortgage process. Through this process, the mortgage professional will request a list of documents to pretty much gather a pre-approval amount for you. Here is a list of few of some standard documents that are typically requested. 30 days, most recent pay stubs, showing your year-to-date income. It's important to make sure that your income is in line. 2 years, most recent tax returns, W-2s, any 401k statements, and some additional, not limited to these documents, but these are just to list a few of some of the things that they may ask for. During this process, your mortgage professional will break down your portfolio into, with that next screen, such as your income and documentation. They'll review your income for the past year, 2 years, and make sure that it's consistent. Everyone's income, obviously, ones of different things. It could be self-employed, you could be a W-2 or 1099 wage earner. But the point of that is to make sure that income is stable and is likely to continue. It's, of course, not limited to those things. Other sources of income that can be considered are VA disability, Social Security, child support, alimony. There's many different aspects of income. You don't necessarily have to be employed to qualify for a mortgage. You can have other income coming into your household that can be considered and also ultimately help you qualify for a mortgage. Again, they typically look to make sure that income is likely to continue and that you'll have some form of stable employment for the future and be able to repay back. The next thing that we look into is your credit. There are 3 credit bureaus which make your FICO score. Your credit score can range anywhere from 300 to 850. 300 would be quite low. But where your credit score falls ultimately determines what product you're more likely to fall into. So if you're in the low 600s, depending on what your down payment may be, that might determine if you are going with an FHA or conventional. Those are things we can kind of discuss one-on-one. But credit score pretty much determines what product and where you'll likely be as far as the mortgage process. Between the 3 credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, between the middle scores determines your FICO score. So if you're not sure how to come up with your FICO score, it is compressed out of those 3 credit bureaus, TransUnion, like I said, Equifax, and Experian. If you're not sure what your credit score is, you can log on as anybody can read a copy of their credit report for free by going to annualcreditreport.com, and you can obtain once a year a free credit report for yourself. A few additional things after your mortgage professional has reviewed your income, credit, assets are another thing. These 60 days most recent bank statements. How are you coming up with your down payment? How are you paying for closing costs? They will dig into all these things to determine if you can actually afford to purchase the home. Even though you may qualify, if you don't have the assets to pay for down payment, then you may need to readjust the numbers that you're targeting as far as the purchase price where you qualify. All these things will be evaluated during the pre-approval process. Very much important. Terms, rates, debt-to-income ratios. Debt-to-income ratio is a percentage of your income that goes towards paying your debt. All these things determine what you qualify for and are part of the mortgage process and also make up and determine your pre-approval. So that's pretty much the beginning aspects of getting you pre-approved. It can be done over the phone with a mortgage professional. You can sit down one-on-one and determine that amount. And once that is determined, that is sent out to you and most likely your agent, and then you're off to the next step.
Questions regarding the pre-approval for Rebecca to answer. We can do a quick Q&A regarding the pre-approval process. Any questions?
Bring it on. Any questions, I'm open to it.
Yeah. If you have no questions, we'll go ahead and.
Well, I wanted to hope that they were detailed enough then. Of course, if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me directly and we can go through your circumstance one by one. Credit, income, all those details.
Okay. Alrighty. So then after the pre-approval, you'd have to, I would suggest to go ahead and look for an agent to assist you on your search. Not all agents are created equal. Some of them can be very sleazy. Great agents will become your ears and eyes. They'll become your partners throughout the whole process. They'll be able to advise and educate you along the way, like what I'm doing now with you guys. And in order for you to make a better decision on your purchase. Most agents have an extensive knowledge of the market, trends, even hidden listings that it's not public, access to off-market listings as well. So reaching out to a good agent is definitely a good idea. Sellers, they have their own agents. They represent the agents. The agents represent the sellers on their behalf. It's like if you would go to court, you would want someone to represent you, and that's what agents like me would do for you in the buying process. We're also expert networkers. As you can see, I have a mortgage person that I work with. I have other mortgage people that I work with too. I have my attorney here that I've worked with, and we can connect you with people who do renovations, moving men, even get your cable connected when you move, which I have done for past clients. Another great thing is that you don't pay us. We actually get paid by the seller. So having an agent work for you on your behalf is a good way to go when it comes to buying your home. And we also will negotiate on your behalf to make sure that you have the best deal regarding your purchase. All right. So after the pre-approval and finding an agent, then it's the fun part, going home shopping. And after that, making your offer. Okay. Let's see. 1 second. Let me go ahead and share this. All right, so yeah, so with the pre-approval, it limits the time. Like you don't spend around looking for stuff. You already know exactly what you can afford, where you can buy, and type of property size, and all the other stuff. So with that in hand, when you're going to go shopping with your agent, it is very smart that you would take notes when you go to check out some properties. Hold on, let me show. So yeah, so take notes. You know, you got to take notes on the details of the home. Inside the property, check out the plumbing. Make sure that the pipes are working. Turn on the faucet. If you notice anything odd with it, it could be a red flag, like, I don't know, brown water coming out of the faucet. Check out the electrical work. Try flipping some switches. Make sure that the lights are working properly. Open and close doors and windows. Outside of the property, you know, take some notes on what it's like outside of the property. Is it clean and orderly block? Is it, do the owners in the area take care of your block or their property? That's a good sign if you know that your neighbors who will be good neighbors, because you're not only buying the house, you're also buying your neighbors. So you would want neighbors that will take care of their home as well. Is there tons of traffic? Yes, I know we're in New York City. Traffic is everywhere in New York City, but there are some places in New York City that has less traffic than most other areas. If that is a pet peeve of yours, that's something that you should look into as well. How's parking? Yes, parking is bad everywhere, but as I said, with traffic, some areas are better than others. And take notes on the street sweeper alternate side parking days. Some blocks have multiple days on one side, some just one. Some don't even have any, like closer towards Long Island. Another thing that you might want to keep in mind is if it's conveniently located by transit, by shopping, restaurants nearby. A lot of those things are important for many people, especially me, because I'd like to be close to everything, not too far away. And another important thing that I suggest everyone to do is check with their local police department, whichever precinct is in that area, for crime stats. Agents are not allowed to tell you, we're not legally allowed to tell you if an area is safe or not. You have to go to a professional in that field to find out if that area is safe or not, okay? Let's see. Also, you should take your time on your home shopping. Take your time, but don't. The reason why it kind of sounds a little contradictory, but there are times when someone finds a property that they like, and then they want to hold off to see what else is out there. And if you take too long on a property, you might actually lose out on that property. So if you do find something that you really like, definitely put an offer in. Don't wait it out. Especially seeing that offers aren't contracts. They're just a paper saying that you're interested in this house and you'd like to make an offer on it. It's not binding. It's not a contract. So if you wanted to back out of that, you can. The thing that it's going to be harder to back out of is an actual contract, and we'll get to that. So let's say you found the property that you like. You go ahead and you put an offer, a conditional offer, and it's just a paper stating that you're interested. It's not a contract. It's not binding. So you put in the offer, be prepared. You might end up having to do a bidding war. There are a lot of other buyers out there. There are also investors out there. And you might find that property and someone else wants it, and you might end up losing out on it. I just want to let you guys know that expect it. Don't get too excited on a home until you're at closing. When you have the keys in your hand, then you can be excited. Let's see. So after you do find the property, you do the offer. Your offer is accepted after, negotiations between you and the seller, and you find something in between that works out for both of you guys and it's accepted. Then the next step would be home inspections, okay? Let me go ahead and all right, so home inspections. Okay, so home inspections happen right before a contract is signed. Is it necessary? No, but it's a smart thing to do. You can say that you don't want a home inspection, but I would, as a good agent, as well as your attorney would, like Steven, suggest that it's important for you to get a home inspection. Okay. Older homes, they might have foundational issues. They might have mold or leaks that you can't see. And home inspections, they have professionals that are able to see all those things that you can't see. It's to protect you financially. Like my mother purchased a home and she didn't get a home inspection, and she is still having to pay a lot of extra money on things that would have been fixed prior, or she would have just walked away from the property with all the issues from electrical work to plumbing work that she has to worry about now. So it's really smart with older homes. Newer homes, I definitely think you should get inspection with a newer home. Some builders, they cut corners. And that could also affect you just like an older home would. Condos, like resales, not the new ones too, but the resales, condo resales, that I've had clients that decided not to, and I mean, you can, but I still suggest against it, because yes, the condo association is responsible of some of the things through maintenance, because you do pay a maintenance fee, and some of the things is covered by the maintenance fee. Some other things may not be covered. It depends on the condo association what they will cover and what they don't cover. I've heard of places that won't cover leaks. It just depends on a condo association, and seeing that you don't know, it's just better to do it than not do it. Okay. After the inspection, both parties will get them. So you'll get a copy of the inspection, the seller will get a copy of the inspection, your attorney will get a copy of the inspection. They will go through it to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the inspection, that nothing came up that needs to be taken care of. If they do see something, they will let you know, and they will let the sellers know, and they pretty much will give you the seller the option to rectify it, or some type of contingency, like maybe lowering the sales price of the property based on the repairs that need to be done. So pretty much after inspection, everything's done with the inspection. That's when the contract would get signed. This is when the part where you need to have a like Stephen. Hold on, let me make this a bit better. But like Stephen here. And you'll sit down with the attorney and go through that process of the contract, and I'll let him go ahead and talk about that portion.
Thank you, Alicia.
You're welcome.
So as Alicia was saying before, it is really important to have a good team around you, starting with a good agent and a good mortgage person. The way the contract gets drafted is usually the seller's and buyer's attorney will receive a term sheet. The term sheet will have all of the details of the transaction, what has and hasn't been negotiated on it, so we know what to expect and what to look out for in a contract. The contract is drafted by the seller's attorney. It's sent to the buyer's attorney to review and mark up, and at that point the buyer will come in first and get it signed. Having a good agent is extremely important at this point, because if things are left out of the term sheet, they can get left out of the contract. And if things are left out of the contract, parties are not obligated to do things based on verbal promises. So the term sheet put together by the real estate brokers is extremely important. The contract becomes basically the rules of the transaction, the rules of the game. So there's a lot of pretty standard provisions that go in the contract, which I'll go through, but everything is negotiable. So just because something is one way in one contract doesn't necessarily mean it's the same way in another contract. So it's important that you have people around you who understand that every transaction is different, and that every transaction has to be negotiated, and you have to be in constant discussion with your parties. Things that the sellers are offering or the buyers are expecting need to be carefully drafted and reviewed and put into that contract. So typical things that have to be in a contract, obviously the names of the sellers, names of the buyers, the property address, the legal description of the property, what you're actually buying, if it's 20 by 100, if it's 100 by 100, if it's one lot, if it's two lots. Those things are very important. The sale price, what you're putting down on contract, what your total down payment is going to be, and then what you're going to mortgage if you're getting a loan. So the mortgage contingency is, if you're getting a loan, is one of the very important provisions in the contract. It's something that I spend a lot of time going through with my client and going over and negotiating with the other attorney. As a buyer's attorney, I want my client, if they make a good faith attempt to get their mortgage and they get denied for any reason, you want to make sure that you get your down payment back. When you go in and meet with your attorney as a buyer and you write many times what's the largest check you've ever written in your life, you want to make sure, as long as you do everything right, if something goes wrong, that check is coming back to you and you don't have any problems or any worries about recouping your money. The contract will also stipulate in there how much of a mortgage you can go for. So if you make an offer saying that you're putting 20% down, it's important that your attorney explains to you and that you understand your mortgage contingency is capped at the amount that's listed in the contract. So you can't then apply for a 90% mortgage and still have that contingency effect. It also sets down time limitations and how long you get to get your mortgage approved and what the ramifications are if you're not able to get it. Some contracts, the way the standard form contract is written, if you don't give notice in a certain amount of time, you risk losing your down payment. So we make sure to negotiate those time limits out of there, make sure that your down payment is protected. And if something goes wrong, you get your money back and you can kind of move on to your next property. One of the other important conditions that are in the contract is what you're getting, the condition of the property. Many houses come to you in what they call as condition. So the way you see it is the way you're getting it. On a typical contract, they make the representations that the heating, electric, and plumbing will be in working order and the roof will be free of leaks. It's important to have in there because if it's not in there and it's an as-is condition and something that you missed or the inspector missed, was there when you first started and signed your contracts, unfortunately, that's the way you're going to get it. And if it's not negotiated and put into the contract properly, it can cost you a lot of money. Like Alicia was explaining, I think it's extremely important to have an inspector go in there and look at it, make sure you know exactly what you're getting, that the as-is condition is as of the time of contract, not of closing, so that if something happens between the time you sign a contract and close, the seller is still responsible for that. You want to make sure that that's all in there so that you're protected. You'll also do an inspection before closing, not necessarily with a home inspection, with a home inspector, but you could do that if you choose, where you go back in and make sure that everything is still in the same condition and that everybody's out. Property is what they call broom clean and vacant, no tenants. The seller has gotten rid of all of their personal property. They haven't left you with whatever they don't want so that you have to deal with it after you close. And then you'll go to a closing and sign and you'll get the keys at the closing. In addition, there's infinite possibilities that can be put into the contract on how you're taking the property, whether it's with violations, without violations. Obviously, typically you don't want violations. You want to put in there how many family house it is, whether there are improvements on the property that need required C of Os like decks or extensions, easements, driveways, things like that. All of those things can be checked when you do your title search that your attorney will look at just to make sure that they're all legal. You don't move in and a year later the building department shows up at your door with a violation telling you that you have to either legalize something or take it down and pay a fine. So the contract is extremely important. It's important that you sit down with your lawyer and really go through what you're expecting and what you want, because every contract is different. And the last thing that you want is for something that's not important to you to be negotiated, so strongly that you miss out on a property. I've had many times where lawyers just want to negotiate and they over lawyer. So, they get stuck or hell-bent on one term that's not really important to a buyer. So you may be redoing the kitchen. You don't care whether or not there's a refrigerator that's coming with the property or not, but another attorney, is arguing about, whether you're getting that refrigerator and possibly lose a deal. So it's important that you spend a lot of time with your lawyer, that they're available and that they're willing to spend time with you to make sure that you know what you're getting, know what's being negotiated, what's important to you, and what's important that gets conveyed and written into the contract so that you get what you're expecting. Are there any questions on the contracts?
Any questions at all? Go ahead and type it in and we'll answer it.
And if you think of questions after today, which most of the time
Yeah.
when I meet with clients, they think of them the moment after they leave, you can always email me or call the office.
There is a question for you, Rebecca. Chris asked, are there negative effects of getting pre-approval from multiple banks?
Chris, I always suggest that people, for their own due diligence, shop around. But I believe everything in moderation. I say shopping anywhere from 2 to 3 lenders is reasonable. I think when you start shopping everywhere and anywhere, you do put your credit at risk of possibly taking a dive. We can't guarantee that your credit is going to be able to withstand inquiries because there's no saying on how many inquiries you had prior to that and how the credit bureaus will score you based on the way you're utilizing or abusing your credit with that. But it is always wise to shop around, checklist anywhere. I would say at least 2 lenders, 3, and just make sure you're getting the best options available to you.
Okay, Chris, I hope that answered your question. We do have another question here. Mohammed, let's see I got a question about the mortgage contingency. It only covers the agreed loan amount listed?
It could be written anyway, but typically it's the loan amount that's listed in the contingency or anything less. So if you make an offer that you're going to put 20% down and you sign a contract and you're a mortgage person and you decide that you're only going to put 3.5% down, you're much more likely to get denied for that loan because now you're borrowing more money. So that contingency would not apply in that case. But if you put in an offer that you were putting 20% down, the standard mortgage contingency writes in that you can take up to that amount. So if you decide later it would make more sense to put down 25% down or 30%, you could always take out less. So any amount that's listed in the contingency or lower. And I go over that, in detail with my clients to make sure that that's not an issue.
Okay, I hope that answered your question, Mohammed. If anybody has any other questions, just feel free to text it on to the chat and we'll get to it. All right, so we're gonna move on, okay? All right, so notice the contract. So now after you sit down with your attorney and you sign a contract, the contract's going to get sent out to the seller's attorney and they're going to sign the contract. And after they sign their portion of the contract, that's when you are in contract. So at this point, that's when everything has to start, the ball gets rolling. Let's see. You're going to, the mortgage company has to get all the paperwork done. The appraisals are going to get done. And everything's going to move forward. Title company is going to clear the title for the property. And then you'll be cleared for closing. During this time, I always advise people, do not purchase anything on credit. No major purchases. Don't think that you are on contract, you're okay. You can buy whatever. You don't buy whatever until after you get the keys and you're finished with closing, okay? Because if you're getting a mortgage and you make these purchases, the mortgage company will probably turn your loan down and then you can't get the house. It happens to people all the time. They think that they're in contract, they're safe now. Don't spend any money on, okay, Mohammed, we'll get to you. Don't spend any money, any large funds on on anything until after you close on the property.
And just a note to that, depending on how your mortgage contingency is written, you're given an approval by the bank and you're given a mortgage commitment that's later withdrawn because you do something crazy like go buy a boat, which I've had a client do on credit. Your down payment can be at risk depending on what the language is written in the mortgage contingency. So it is very important. I go over that with people. I'm sure Rebecca hammers that into people's heads not to buy anything major until after they close.
Okay. All right. We got a few questions coming in. All right. Real quick. So hypothetically, this is from Mohammed, an offer at 10% down conventional and switching to a lower down payment FHA would be fine?
No, that's the opposite. So an offer at 10% down conventional, if you then decided to put 20% down conventional, should be fine. And again, it all depends on what's written in your individual mortgage contingency, but the way most of them are written are like that. And you also would need language in there authorizing you to apply for an FHA loan. You could, if you decided that you needed to apply for a larger loan amount, you could ask the seller to consent to that, but they would have to agree to that at that point.
Okay. And then another question, does the buyer pay for the closing costs or can it be negotiated?
Everything can be negotiated. Typically, the buyer has their set of closing costs that they pay, which includes the banking fees, your title insurance, your lawyer's fees, survey fees, and stuff like that. And the seller has their own closing costs in New York City, which are expensive. They pay transfer taxes, they pay their broker's fee, they pay their lawyer. But all of that stuff can be negotiated. There are often times where the seller tries to get the buyer to pay their closing costs and vice versa, where the seller will offer a concession to pay the buyer's closing costs. Typically, when they offer the concession, though, that those closing costs are financed, so the buyer's really paying them. It's not really just a gift.
Okay, so now you're in contract. Now the mortgage process is going to go through. I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca so she can explain in details how the mortgage portion is going to go. Hold on a second, Rebecca. All right, go ahead.
So as Steve mentioned, your contracts are a very important aspect of the mortgage process. The terms that are on that contract is very important to structuring your file during the mortgage process as well. And one thing that he mentioned was product type, seller's concessions, all these things go into your application, your initial application that are sent out to you in the beginning process. So first off, you're going to get prepared. You're going to get all your documents that we referenced in the pre-approval process. During that time period, the bank is most likely going to ask you for updated documents throughout the process of the loan. So you should be prepared for that. I would keep an envelope or a folder handy with your pay stubs, your bank statements throughout the mortgage process. Your loan officer or processor will be requesting these updated documents. The mortgage process does require a great deal of paper. You should prepare yourself for that. So after you get prepared, your initial application comes out to you. This is pretty much lists your purchase price, your down payment, projected estimated closing costs, interest rate, all these things. Not final, but it's that's why they label it your initial application. After your initial application is signed and sent back to the bank, the file goes into processing. The processor will work on getting the appraisal ordered, updating your documents to make sure it's prepared for underwriting. Once your processor has gathered all these documents and pulled your file together as best as possible and puts in a nice clean file into underwriting, the underwriter will thoroughly review your file, your income documentation, your assets, everything, the contract, the appraisal, and determine if this mortgage is approvable. After the underwriter has completed their review, they will issue a mortgage commitment that will then get sent out to your attorney. And during that process, after the mortgage is approved and we receive a mortgage approval / commitment, there's most likely some additional conditions that will be needed in order to clear your files to close. So during that time period, I would say this process can take anywhere from 30 to 45 days, depending on the property type. Co-ops, I noticed, do tend to take a little bit longer. But during this process, you will clear your conditions that were requested by the underwriter. And most likely in the background, your real estate agent, an attorney, and everybody else is working on clearing title issues. Once we all have met each other at the finishing line, the bank has cleared the file to close. They will confirm with your title company and attorney that they have completed everything on their end, and then they schedule a closing date. A few days prior to closing, your attorney and mortgage professional will reach out to you, give you your final numbers on what's needed for closing, and then you are pretty much scheduled and on your way for closing. Your loan documents get signed at closing. Those are the final terms of your mortgage, and those details are all drawn out at the table. And you should, prior to closing, know exactly what your terms are, what your payment will be, your interest rate. Should it be pretty much any surprises, but you do sign your final and official document at the closing table.
Okay. Alrighty.
Did we want to touch base also on any additional products, or we want to do that a little later?
Yeah, a little later. I'm going to finish up the whole buying process, and then we'll touch base on the different types of FHAs and all that stuff.
Looks like Felicia has a question.
Yes, she does. Oh, hold on. Let me just finish this up, Felicia, and we'll get to your question, okay? I just want to get through the whole buying process. Okay, so after, oh, I should have just left this up. After all this whole process, the entire process has been cleared, ready to go, you're going to be scheduled for closing. Prior to closing, you'll have to do a final walkthrough throughout the whole property. And it's similar to what I was saying about taking notes. You'll be with your agent. You're going to be checking the plumbing, electrical by flipping switches, opening and closing doors, making sure the appliances that were there when you first looked in the property is still in the property. Make sure that they work, no holes or anything broken on the property. It's just, like I said, to make sure that everything is the same when you first saw the property, okay? And then that's usually around three days prior to closing. Then you will be set for closing. And I'm going to hand that off, the closing portion, what to expect when you go to closing, to Stephen. And let me just.
So at closing, you can expect to sign a lot of documents. Basically, everybody shows up, like Rebecca was saying, the bank is clear to close, so they'll send their final loan documents in. The most important documents that you sign for the bank are your note and your mortgage. So your promissory note will set forth the terms of your repayment, what you're borrowing, what your interest rate is, how much the principal and interest payments are, what type of loan you're getting, whether it's a 30-year fixed or whether it's a 5-year fixed and then variable rate after that. All of which you should know well before we get to the closing table. You'll sign your mortgage, which will put the lien on the property, and you'll get, on a house, you'll get a deed. So when we get to the closing, what we do is we work out your numbers, usually the day before we get them from the bank, so we can tell you what you need to bring to the closing as far as checks, which need to be certified. We'll work out any adjustments that need to be done if the seller has prepaid taxes. We reimburse them from the day that you close up until the date that they paid, and you'll bring the balance of the purchase price plus your closing costs. Any issues that the walkthrough will be discussed at closing. So it's always good when you do your walkthrough, if you can. If there are problems, take pictures. If there's a bunch of stuff in the basement that's not supposed to be there, take a picture, bring it to the closing, and we can always work things out at the closing. Or we could adjourn the closing, but it's usually best to try to work because you may have rate locks and issues that are expiring. It's important at closing when you get your deed to review it carefully, make sure names are spelled correctly, make sure you're holding property the way you want to hold property. If it's you and your wife or you and your husband, you may want to hold it as husband and wife. They all have, all the language has different effects, and you hold title differently depending on what's written on the deed. So it's important that somebody reviews it with you carefully and discusses how you want to hold title, because it can have extreme effects down the road. You want to make sure that you get copies of all your documents, copies of your deed, your note, your mortgage, all of your bank documents that you sign, a copy of your title bill. All of that stuff's important to bring to your accountant at the end of the year. Some of the stuff may be tax deductible, so you want to make sure that you do that. And then your lawyer should really have copies of just about everything that happens at the table, copies of any post-closing agreements, closing disclosures, things of that nature. And you should be provided copies of that all as well. If everything goes good, you sign all your documents, the numbers will work out, you get your deed, you get your title insurance, and you get your keys, and then you get ready to move in. But it's very important that anything that is an issue be discussed with your attorney that day. Don't let people rush you through a walkthrough. Don't let people rush you through closing, because if you call a week later and the refrigerator is not working, it's now your broken refrigerator. So all of those things need to be brought up and addressed at the closing. Once it closes, unless there's some sort of post-closing agreement, it's closed and it's yours. So I'll turn it back over to Alicia.
Maybe about 20 minutes. Okay. All right. So now at that point, you guys have your keys, you have your house. Congratulations. That's pretty much the whole process from start to finish for buying a home. Okay. Now that I finished that part, I'm going to quickly go through the condo versus co-op, and then we'll go over the mortgage portion, like different types of mortgages. I know someone asked me a question regarding that. We'll get to that at that part. All right. So with condos and co-ops, let me do the screen share one more time. Let's open this up real quick. All right, so condos versus co-op. All right. Now, co-ops are not real property. Okay, they're not real estate. You don't own the actual physical space. Okay, when you buy a co-op, you become a shareholder. It's like stock in a corporation that owns the property. As a shareholder, you're entitled to exclusive use of the housing unit in the property. You don't own the unit, you lease it under a long-term proprietary lease. To purchase shares in a co-op, each buyer takes out a share loan instead of a mortgage. Okay, because co-ops are not real property, they tend to be less expensive than actual real estate. Co-op owners, they pay monthly maintenance to the building corporation for items such as expenses to maintain and operate the property, property taxes, and maybe even an underlying mortgage on the property. They usually include a lot of utilities. Most co-ops will include all utilities, that as well as TV and internet, which all of those built-in fees makes co-op maintenance fees much higher than a condo would be. Because part of the monthly maintenance fee is or common charges, I should say, are paid to the co-op board, that they're used for taxes and possibly mortgage. You can make that tax deductible, but it has to be used for any real estate situation for it to be tax deductible. With condos, you're actually buying an individual unit of real property. It's like a townhouse or a house. The condo building is divided into multiple condos and a common area. A condo owner owns its apartment and the undivided use of interest in the common area, and is responsible to pay your own real estate taxes for the unit. And you also share the common charges and expenses to maintain and operate the common areas. Unlike a co-op building, like with co-ops, you might have to pay a underlying mortgage. With condos, you don't have any underlying mortgages for a condo building. Generally, condos are worth more money than a co-op because it's actual real estate. And you also have to worry about additional closing costs for title insurance and mortgage recording taxes for a condo versus a co-op. The monthly maintenance aren't usually tax deductible, but your payments for property taxes and mortgage interest may be deductible against your income taxes. There's also other, things that you can do regarding tax deductible situation, like if you have a home office. As we all know, there's more co-ops in New York City than condos. And also another thing that you have to keep in mind is that co-ops have a more rigorous board application and approval process. They have some really strict financial requirements for anyone who wants to purchase a share, and if not all of the applicants will require prospective buyers to complete applications require prospective buyers to complete a financial statement to prove your financial net worth, your debt income ratio, and your financial liquidity. Okay. Documents you may be asked to provide include tax statements, bank returns, brokerage statements. It's like you have to give that information to your mortgage, to whoever you decide to get to your share loan, is the same thing you have to give to the board. Okay. The reality is that even if you can afford a co-op, and also give all the required documentation, they can still reject your application. The board has a right to reject you for any reason whatsoever, with exclusion of the protected categories like race, creed, color, sex, age, sexual orientation, etc. The board of directors have no obligation to provide the reason why they reject your application. Okay. Condos, on the other hand, they're less rigorous, and they rarely reject anyone from the board. A condo may reject a purchaser by utilizing a right of first refusal. However, this will require the condo itself to purchase the unit at the same terms being proposed between the prospective buyer and seller. You may be able to find units in a co-op building which are still owned by an original sponsor who initiated the actual conversion to co-op. When you do get it from a sponsor, there's generally no co-op board approval process required for that. So that's a good loophole if you want to pretty much skip the strict rules. They also, not only for the application process, but they also have strict rules for residents that ranges from noise regulation or pet policy, limitations on renovations that you would do to your unit. They also would have maybe strict policies regarding subletting your unit. Like some people, they just want to buy and sublet it. Co-ops, they tend to be a bit more strict with that because they prefer to have more owner-occupied units rather than leased out units. So that's pretty much the differences between co-op and condos. They both have their plus and minuses, and that's just something that you could think about when you want to purchase as an option instead of a single family or multifamily home. Now I'm going to go over, well, actually I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca. She's going to talk about the different programs and grants.
Can I just say a quick note on condos and co-ops really quickly?
Okay, Stephen's got something to say before we move on.
It's just important if you are going to buy a condo or a co-op that you make sure that you and or your attorney looks at the financials of the building. Like Alicia was saying, co-ops, they'll have something that's called a flip tax. So if you're buying a co-op, and you plan on staying there for 2 or 3 years and it has a 20% flip tax, it's not a viable investment. So if you're going to buy a condo or a co-op, you really should do all of your research into the financials, the proprietary lease, the house rules, board minutes if they are available, because you really are buying into an association that may restrict things like that, subletting, and it may have an effect on your bottom line when you go to sell it.
Mm-hmm. And it's really the agents will get that stuff for you?
The agents usually will get it and get it over to the buyer's attorney. A good agent will.
Yeah.
I'd say about 20% of the agents actually do it. So usually we're on the phone with the management company trying to confirm things like maintenance. Because if maintenance is listed wrong on a term sheet and in the contract, 2 months down the line, you don't want to fight about it. So you want to make sure all that stuff is confirmed right from the beginning. If there are any assessments, you want to know about them, what they're there for, how often they impose assessments, what the building's financials are. If you're buying a condo in a 6-unit building that has absolutely no money in the bank and an aging roof, when that roof goes, it's going to be split between 6 people. So, that can be a cost that you're not expecting. Mm-hmm. So it's important to do your homework and do a little research on it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. All right. So Rebecca, you can go ahead and go over the programs and grant options available and anything else that...
Programs you're going to call between conventional and FHA and VAs and USDAs, but the common ones that most first-time home buyers take advantage of are FHA. Why? Because the minimum down payment requirements and the flexibility in the guidelines and underwriting requirements, that they're a little bit more forgiving towards credit blemishes along those lines, but does come with MIP. However, you do put that 3.5% down. Majority of first-time home buyers like to take advantage of this product to get their foot in the door and then possibly down the line consider refinancing. Conventional, there are products such as Home Ready, which will allow you to put 3% down. If you have a strong income or you meet the income requirements, it's a great product to take advantage of. If you're a veteran, VA, of course, offers many great products, anywhere up to 100% financing. You can contact me to get more information in regards to that. Some of my favorites are for rehab products that are out there on the conventional end and on the FHA end. One product is Home Style, and one is 203K. These products allow you to purchase a home that is in disarray or needs some work and finance the repairs through at the same time as purchasing it. You may see a property that is being offered, for example, at $150,000, but if you were to put in about $40,000, it would be worth about $250,000. The bank will help you finance those repairs as long as you hire a licensed contractor. And after closing, you could start those repairs with the licensed contractor. So I think that's a great product if your budget doesn't permit you to buy something that's completely move-in ready. In addition to all these other products that are available, there's so many directed to every type of portfolio out there, meaning as far as every credit and income requirement. So feel free to reach out to me and Jeff Van Note team. We pretty much work with the team, and we're more than willing to go over all the options that are available to you. I would also like to discuss some of programs that are out there for educators, law enforcement, firefighters, emergency medical professionals, that are military and veterans, federal your closing costs or any additional fees that go into closing costs, such as application, underwriting, commitment fees. For these types of people that meet these requirements, the lender does issue you a credit to kind of take away from closing costs. Of course, any grants that are out there that are issued by your state, as lender, we're more than willing to look and see if there's a way to fit it in a product. So your state offering a grant, if you, for whatever reason, there's always different grants going on. You might want to look into your county and state to see what's available depending on where you're looking to purchase. We definitely take those programs into consideration and figure out where would best fit for you. In regards to Felicia's question, I think we might as well just answer that. Saying you have a 20 to 30% down on decent credit, how would you determine if you should go FHA or traditional? Decent credit really determines what you mean by decent credit. I think there's many things that come into play when you're making that decision. What type of property are you looking to purchase? So you're looking to buy a see the direction breaches up. And I should say condo, because co-ops do not go FHA. But condo, if it is approved by FHA, not too many of them out there. I think, Felicia's answer to your question, it's best to link up with a mortgage professional to evaluate your credit, your income, and determine what would be the best way for you to go.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions in regards to any of the programs that I referenced, or anything else?
Any questions? Feel free to type it in. Any questions regarding types of loan, down payments, programs that was listed? Nothing? Okay. Well, we're also going to have a Q&A at the end. If you do have any questions, just feel free to type it in there in the chat room and we will get to it. We're almost done. We're about to wrap it up, actually. And then you can shoot any other additional questions that you have for us to answer. Let's see. All right, so my first webinar. I hope that it was very insightful and was full of information that you needed. I do have a replay for it, so you'll be able to watch it again. If you do have any questions, shoot it on the chat room. I'm looking. Okay, someone does have a question. We'll get to the question at the end of the for the Q&A. Okay, I just want to wrap it up, and then we'll do the Q&A and we'll answer any questions. If you got questions, just keep putting it in there, and we'll answer it at the end. Okay. But thank you again for attending the webinar. It's my first one. I'm sorry, it was a little messed up at this time, but I'll get better at it. I hope that you got all the information that you need.
I thought you did great.
Thank you. So I want to also thank my guest, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen Smith.
Thank you.
And Rebecca, she's having some technical difficulties, so I'm actually using the phone.
Absolutely. Thank you for understanding, you guys.
But let me share the contact. Questions, just feel free to reach out to us, okay? So this is Stephen's contact information. He's an attorney here in Brooklyn. Feel free to reach out to him anytime. He doesn't have a profile picture, so I had to use a little icon for him, but
I like the icon.
you like the icon. And here's Rebecca. Thank you so much for helping me out. If you have any questions regarding getting approved, or pre-approval questions, or any questions for refinancing, anything regarding mortgage, give her a call. She also has the email here, part of Van Note Mortgage team. She'll help you out with whatever you need. Okay. And this is me. My contact information. I'm an agent out here in Brooklyn for Res Brooklyn in Park Slope. You can reach out to me on social media. All my social media channels are BrooklynREPro, by email, or you can even text me. This is my team. I'm a part of a team, Condos team. Condos, Keatrice and Guy Alexandra. They're all my partners. They couldn't make it in today. Actually, one of them is here, but he's a little bit on the shy side. He doesn't want to get on TV or get on the webinar. But thank you again. Thank you so much. And now we're going to start with questions. If you have questions, thank you, Chris. If you have questions, please put it in there. Let's start the Q&A. All right, so let's see. We have what loans are for firefighters? What type of loans for firefighters?
That would fall under the closing cost credit, where you get the credit for no processing application, all those junk fees that a lot of banks will charge. There's programs for it. Those will fall under state law enforcement type of program. So I wouldn't say there's any directed loans. It's more so you're getting a discount.
Okay, so it's a discount on the loan.
A lender closing cost credit.
Okay.
No lender closing cost credit.
Okay. All right. And that's for firefighters, and who else?
I believe there was one there for Felicia about changing jobs.
Huh? Oh, yes. Yeah, changing jobs prior to application for a mortgage reflect negatively against the pre-approval loan process.
It depends on what the job changes. Are you in the same line of work? Are you changing for more money? Was overtime considered in your pre-qualification? Before making any type of moves like that, 100% highly suggest if we make any moves such as changing jobs or deciding to buy anything, as we suggested or not, all going to connect with your mortgage professional and make sure that it does not negatively affect your pre-approval. If just strictly base income was used to qualify you and you're making a change for a better paying job in the same line of work, then that may your loan officer may say, hey, that's a great move, go for it. But I suggest prior to, depending on the line of work that you're in and whatever the details may be, connecting with your mortgage professional prior to making any type of changes to assure that is not negatively affecting your pre-approval.
Okay. Now, is that it? Yeah, I guess that's it. No one else has any questions on loans or legal questions for Steven or real estate questions for me? No questions at all? All right, is there anything you guys want to add? Do you want to add anything, Steven?
I mean,
yes, I do. I actually just want to add in, if you're questioning credit-wise, do I qualify? Can I make work? I think a lot of people pre-approve themselves. They rather go out and look and dream. I find that the opposite. You should reach out to the mortgage professional, work with your mortgage professional to kind of come up with a game plan on how you can get there. So if your credit is less than perfect, a lot of mortgage professionals can give you some suggestions or direct you in the right place on what you need to do to maybe get up to par to qualify for a mortgage, or maybe some of the small changes that you need to make are very minor, or maybe you're more qualified than you think. Connect with the professionals to kind of tell you where you fall. That you may be more qualified than you think for self-assessing your situation. There's programs out there for all incomes and all credit types.
Okay. So you're saying that regardless of how they feel they are standing, they should speak to a mortgage professional just to find out for sure?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And Stephen, anything you want to add?
No, just if anyone thinks of any questions after today, they can feel free to email or call.
Okay. Alrighty. So I think we are done. Just like everyone's saying, if you have any questions, we shared our contact information. You can shoot us an email, give us a call, text me. You can do any of that stuff. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed the webinar. Thank you for joining in on my first one. And I hope to hear from you soon when you're ready to purchase. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, we're not